Mick Doyle is back for another week of Premier League preview. How are you, Mick?
Good, Dave. All good, yeah. Looking forward to a big weekend. Mightn't be as exciting as last weekend, but there's some good fixtures anyway. So we'll see what happens, I suppose.
Yeah, well, the first one that was meant to be on today, Friday, Villa and Newcastle is obviously called off because of the COVID outbreak at the Newcastle training camp. So yeah, we're one fixture down, but we'll keep going. And tomorrow at 12:30 we have Burnley at home to Everton.
Yeah, so this is Everton have been very poor actually. They're 19th in the form table coming into this after a very impressive start. So this may be an opportunity for Sean Dyche to put back-to-back home wins. I know they lost 5-0 against City in their last game, but that was a free hit. They were never going to get anything from that game. If they picked up anything against City, it would have been a miracle given their recent results against them. But they did win the previous game against Palace 1-0. Okay, so it's an opportunity, I think, for Burnley. Everton have been very poor in fullback areas. And we can kind of see that the very thin Everton at the back. When you look at Coleman is still out. Lucas Digne, who we spoke about last week, the French fullback, he's been very important for them. And I wouldn't be surprised in January now to see Everton enter the market for some fullbacks, maybe trying to pick up something from the Championship, or maybe look at exploiting Ancelotti's contacts overseas, a couple of loan signings. But Fabian Delph may come in and play left back or left wing back, I suppose, would suit the system, because they're actually they had Tom Davies and Iwobi playing in those wide areas. And even against Fulham, we could see that what happens then, if these guys are out of position, it pulls the right-sided centre-back and the left-sided centre-back into positions they don't want to be in. So Ben Godfrey was he suffered against Fulham with Lookman kind of running at him. So, this is the issue. Can Everton they have the firepower, which basically kind of got them through against Fulham, and they'll be looking for that kind of that attacking threat to maybe get them through in this one. But I think there's goals in this, even though Burnley haven't been prolific. But I think Everton are just, especially giving up goals against the likes of Fulham. I think there'll probably be an opportunity maybe for Burnley to do something here. But with the quality Everton have up front, you'd have to go for an Everton win, but don't be surprised if it's a tight game here and Burnley may get a point.
Yeah, it seems like that one. It's hard to have too much confidence in Everton going into this one. But yeah, you're going with an Everton win because of the firepower they possess either ways.
Yeah, just because they have Calvert-Lewin up front, and they have I think Rodriguez is going to be okay, and Richarlison as well, and that should be enough quality to get them through.
Okay, and then we move along to the next game, which is City versus Fulham at 3:00 on Saturday tomorrow. City at home to Fulham.
Yeah, so you're looking at City here, and look, this really should be a banker 3 points for City. Fulham, even though they have been did a great win against Leicester in their last game, winning 2-1. That was a massive shock, really, to be honest. We all expected Leicester to bounce back. But this is a free hit for Fulham. I can't imagine them getting anything from this game. City, they beat Burnley 5-0, so maybe they're coming back into a little bit of a goal scoring kind of run. I know they drew 0-0 against Porto midweek, but a draw was good enough there for both teams to qualify. So, whether they really pushed on to get anything from that game. Mahrez had a hat-trick against Burnley, so he's in a good run of form. Aguero is still expected to be on the bench, so you're looking at Gabriel Jesus to still lead the line there, but you can't see anything but a City win here.
Yeah. Okay. City to beat Fulham. Then we have Saturday at 5:30. West Ham at home to United.
Yeah. So this is a big game. Moyes would love to only to get a point or even get a win against United here. West Ham have had 17 points. They're fifth in the league, 4 points off the top. They've had a really good start, and a lot of people were at the start of the season looking at Moyes with the fixtures that they had, saying that, they're going to be under pressure here. Moyes was actually tipped by some people to be the first manager to go. But what struck me about Moyes is he's beginning to shape West Ham in his own image, almost like that old Everton team he had there. Tough to beat. He's brought in a couple of kind of type of players that he had before. The chap in the middle, Soyuncu, I think is his name.
Yeah,
I have to double check that, but he's kind of like a Fellaini style of a player. He's big threat at set pieces. They have Jared Bowen, who's also been playing well on the right. Mikel Antonio was back against Villa, played 45 minutes. So whether they start with Antonio and maybe try and push him to 60 minutes, or if they go with Sebastian Haller, is the big question for Moyes here. Solskjaer, looking to bounce back from the midweek defeat against PSG, and he received a lot of criticism in that regarding the Fred sending off, saying that he never should have left him on, etc. And yeah, you can look at the manager and think, yeah, absolutely, he needs to see that Fred was probably lucky to stay on the pitch for his the first incident. Now, people have been saying that what he did eventually get the second yellow for was not a sending off offence, or saying that it wasn't even a foul, but he was running a tightrope there, and he was playing with fire. Now you can criticize Solskjaer for that, but at the end of the day, Fred is a professional football player. He's a centre midfielder. He's going to pick up yellow cards. He needs to be able to play on a yellow. Don't go to ground. Don't make any silly mistakes. Don't jump into tackles. But it's kind of not good enough. And even Fred was at fault for, even against Southampton, it was a stupid tackle on the edge of the box, was for Ward-Prowse to score. So, Fred is going to be under a little bit of pressure. And again, look, we can read too much into this defeat against PSG for United as well. We need to kind of look at maybe the qualities they showed to come back against Southampton. They were 2-0 down. Even though the scoreline probably flattered Southampton a little bit, it was kind of two set pieces. They had a brilliant delivery for a corner and then an excellent free kick by Ward-Prowse. But United showed a lot of belief to come back from that. It would have been easy for them maybe to roll over. But that shows us that the players are, they're playing for Solskjaer. And I don't think they ever haven't been.
Yeah.
And Cavani, of course, he's added something. He has that bit of experience and he seems to have the hunger, which maybe people were worried about first coming in. Is he going to be another Falcao? Is he not going to really put it in? But he's definitely hit the ground running and he's given him something a little bit kind of different up front, that bit of experience that maybe they don't have with Martial, and Rashford, of course, plays more often.
He's a finisher, isn't he? He's a number 9, which United don't have. He'll get all the goals in and around the box, which United need. And his energy and his attitude has been great. As you said, a lot of people did question him coming in on the big wage, coming in as a free transfer on the big wage. Is he going to do it? But his energy and attitude looks absolutely fantastic up top. He's chasing down every ball. He really wants to play and score.
Yeah, he's been excellent. Look, he was brilliant even when he was at Napoli, and he's always been a brilliant striker internationally as well. And it was a pity he kind of, he went to France that time. He didn't come to the Premier League a bit earlier, and we maybe really would have seen the absolute best of Cavani. But yeah, he's definitely a very useful addition for them. I suppose, another thing we're looking at, United, of course, have 8 away wins in a row now, what you were talking about last week, Dave.
Yeah. But is it 8 or 9?
Is it 9 now?
I think it might be 9.
Oh, it's 9 now. Wow.
I think
that's
the record.
12 points from losing positions, though, as well, all season. So that shows that they've been battling back, and that's the highest in the league. Luke Shaw is still out. Rashford, I think, is a bit of a doubt with a shoulder injury, but is expected to play. So this is going to be tight. We're talking about PSG kind of set on Bruno Fernandes midweek, and it seemed to kind of stifle United. Now, Declan Rice is going to be there for West Ham. So if he can do a similar job, and you can be sure Moyes is going to set up with this kind of passive defensive style he has, where he's, they allowed other teams to have possession kind of across the middle and kind of block up the space, similar to what Mourinho has done in certain games for Tottenham, where the two centre-backs will drop back very deep. And he has these wingers working well as well. So, this will be a tight game. I don't normally go for a draw here, but so I'm actually going to push for a United win. I think they'll just do enough, and they normally bounce back well after a defeat. But this is going to be tight. So
Yeah, West Ham are a bit of a bogey team for United as well. I think United fans would be very happy to see them get over this with a win. They have been a
yeah,
bogey team the last few years.
yeah, they take 3 points and run here to be very happy.
Yeah.
There's going to be 2,000 fans back in the London Stadium, but I don't think you'll probably hear them in the London Stadium anyway, because it's it's not really a football stadium. So, but yeah, I'm looking at a United win here, probably just because they had that defeat midweek. You'd be looking for that kind of cycle to continue for Solskjaer. He normally does bounce back after defeat. So
Okay,
yeah,
and yeah, they weren't too bad against PSG. It was a game that had a lot of chances, and it could have gone either way. Really, they could have gotten a draw of it, but yeah, fine margins, as Ole said himself. So you're going for the United win there anyway, 5:30
yeah.
on Saturday, and that'll be a good one for lads returning for the few bevies in the pubs this weekend as well. And that night we got Chelsea versus Leeds at 8 o'clock.
Yeah, Chelsea leads. So this is kind of, be an interesting clash. Probably because it's Lampard coming up against Bielsa again. And they have a bit of history, of course, when Lampard was Derby manager with the whole Spygate. So I wonder, has Bielsa been peeking over walls with binoculars now around around the Stamford Bridge area? But it's hard to see past Chelsea here. They were very disciplined against Spurs. This was almost if you go back to the Spurs game, I think we were kind of hoping for a classic, but both
Yeah,
managers were just so pragmatic and showed that, okay,
it
we're not
wasn't
going to lose.
it wasn't a good game to watch, was it?
No, well, they didn't gamble. Just
Yeah,
neither manager gambled. They were like, okay, just don't lose this. Liverpool didn't win, so it's just like, if you just finish the way we were, because it kind of showed that even though Chelsea had a lot of firepower there, they did not kind of overcommit.
yeah.
They were happy enough just to take the point and move on.
Mm.
Which was a mature type of approach by Lampard, you have to say. You know, if he is kind of a young manager, and we're not going to call him a novice, but maybe the simple thing would have been to do just go gung ho against Spurs, get caught like Pep and City did, but he didn't. And he closed it down. Kane wasn't allowed an opportunity to really turn and to run at the Chelsea defence, because Kante was there and he was very disciplined. They didn't start Jorginho, who would have been maybe a more of a passer. They had Kante, Kovacevic, even he set in as well. So very disciplined against Tottenham, and you have to say it was a mature and an impressive display. And you could even see, look, if Chelsea and Spurs are both pretenders to be champions here, you'd have to look at Chelsea maybe coming out on top, because they did have more possession. And Lampard shows that he can be pragmatic as well. The
Yeah.
easy thing to do with that Chelsea team is just tell them to go play, almost like a Harry Redknapp type approach. But no, he hasn't done that. So yeah, I was impressed with Lampard's kind of tactical approach last week.
And Leeds United, have Leeds been found out in a way, as in at the start of the season they were a bit of a surprise package, how they played and how well they performed against Liverpool and got goals. Last few games not as good from Leeds.
No, but they actually have been good away from home, actually. They've won 3 games away from home. Now, they were against Sheffield United, Villa and Everton, and Chelsea are, a whole different type of test here. But they're inconsistent, but they play excellent football, and they're great team for the neutral to watch. Look, they're 12th in the league. They have 14 points. If they can finish 12th this season, that's an excellent season for Leeds.
Yeah.
Bielsa, all those players you would imagine will push on, get a little bit better. They deserve to beat Everton in their last game. It was a good away win. Inconsistent, but Leeds are Leeds, and this is going to be a good game to watch, I think. I don't think Chelsea will fear Leeds as they kind of did fear Tottenham, so they will come out, and maybe that will leave some gaps and some holes there.
Yeah, and as we said, maybe every other week, Leeds game, it almost guarantees a few goals anyway, especially when you're up against Chelsea like this with the firepower they have. So should be entertaining Saturday at 8 o'clock. What do you reckon? Are you going with a Chelsea win?
Yeah, because I think Chelsea will probably start with Giroud, who scored 4 goals against Sevilla midweek. And the one criticism that you could look at Chelsea last week was that Tammy Abraham probably had a couple of half chances. And if they had to fall to Harry Kane at the other end, you probably would have been looking at 3 points for Spurs. So I think we kind of saw maybe that Abraham isn't really going to be good enough maybe to push them forward. I know that might be a little bit harsh on him. It's one game, but it was a big game.
Yeah.
And he didn't put his chances away. So, I would think Giroud will probably, if he doesn't start after scoring 4 goals, it's going to be very hard on him. So I think Giroud will start, and I think you're looking at Chelsea win, maybe by 2 goals even, maybe a 3-1 or a 4-2. But,
Okay.
you don't know. Bielsa, brilliant manager. He could set up tactically, and this season has given us lots of surprises already. Chelsea win, but Leeds.
Chelsea win, but you never know, is what you're saying.
Well, I just wouldn't rule out Bielsa, to be honest.
Okay.
Against and Chelsea, they were good against Spurs. They were disciplined, but I don't know. I have a bit of faith in Bielsa. I think he may have something up his sleeve.
I would rule him out. I think Chelsea are going to win this one quite easily.
Yeah, but there will be goals in it, I think.
We'll move along.
If you look at I look at Chelsea's defence as well, okay, and they were fine against Spurs when they had a midfield sitting very close to them. And you're going back to Kurt Zouma and Rudiger, Thiago, maybe he might be in there. But, I still think there's mistakes in Rudiger, and if you can pass it around, he's not that mobile.
Okay. I don't know if Leeds have the threats up front to test them really to the max. But anyway, you're going with a Chelsea win, so am I.
Yeah.
West Brom face Crystal Palace on Sunday at 12 noon. How do you see this one going?
Yeah, this is actually a big opportunity for West Brom here. Palace, it's not 100% confirmed that Zaha is going to be back, not as of yet anyway. Palace have only won 2 out of their last 16 games they've played without Will Zaha. Now, even though in their last game, Palace were in it and they lost by 2 late goals against Newcastle. Okay?
Yeah.
But, if West Brom can even get a point here, depending on the goal difference, they can go above Fulham and get out of the bottom 3. But they're on 6 points. If they can, beat Palace, which, is a realistic aim here for Bilic, they can push up to 9 points and, they can create a little bit of a gap between themselves and the bottom 3. It will only be 2 points because you will think that Fulham will not pick anything up against City, but 2 points at the bottom of the league is a bit of a gap.
Yeah.
But Livermore and Kieran Gibbs are expected to return. They were sidelined with COVID, and the player we spoke about last week as well, Conor Gallagher. He's a kind of a good, lively player. He's a goal threat. He actually scored last week as well.
Last week, yeah.
Yeah. So they will. I think West Brom here might actually get the win. So I'm going to go for West Brom to get one over on Palace. But if Zaha is in, it's a game changer, and it is that important. We can see that. If Zaha is not in the squad, then you're looking at a West Brom win, definitely. Yeah.
Okay. Then Sunday at 2:15, Sheffield United at home to Leicester. Leicester are going to need a win in this one to get back on track, aren't they?
Yeah, it was a disaster really against Fulham in the last game. To lose 2-1 against Fulham, who've had a very poor start. Leicester, a couple of weeks ago, we were talking about them having a chance to beat Liverpool. That they would have the intensity there, and they just didn't have enough. They're just one-dimensional kind of with Vardy. Look, we spoke about that as well before. That it's very effective, but if teams can combat it and they can shut it out, or Vardy's entitled to have a quiet game as well. Nobody can do it every week. So yeah, but Sheffield United here, 1 point. I was reading that this is the worst start to a season for any team.
How has it gone so bad, for Sheffield United, who played quite good football last year and and it's not to say that it's just, you can't say they've been unlucky after 10 games. A couple of games they've played all right and not gotten the results and got beaten by late goals, but I don't know, it's shocking. Yeah,
well, if you look at their team, the players they have, they don't, they did probably overperform last year. Everything seemed to go right with them. They had this kind of new, innovative kind of formation and strategy, and maybe it hit a couple of teams by surprise. They didn't really, they didn't focus that much on their style and decided, okay, we'll just go out and play our own game against Sheffield United. And, I think second year syndrome then, sometimes it's like when a new striker comes in and he does something a bit different, teams adjust to it. They get used to it and they combat it, and then they overcome it quite easily. They have lost a good few games by a single goal, but Sheffield United, at the same time, they need to get something here. They need to pick up points soon because they have Southampton and Man United next. So, it's very hard to see them getting anything for those games.
I'm not sure if you have the stats on it. How many goals have they even scored this year?
4 goals in 10 games.
Yeah, that's poor.
Yeah, very poor. But they don't have a striker. I mean, they gambled on the chap from Liverpool that they brought in and paid big money for,
Yeah.
Normally, teams like that down near the bottom, if you're coming in, you need a proven Premier League striker. And I know, look, it's hard to pick up someone, but you need someone who's maybe experienced. Maybe they might have an injury issue or something, and you try and keep them together with cotton wool, but they will get your goals if they're on the pitch.
Yeah.
But with Sheffield United are gambling on a reserve, a young kid that had been on loan, I think, at Birmingham the year before. So, it hasn't worked for them. He didn't hit the ground running, and Wilder's really on borrowed time here now. I know he's they seem to be sticking with him because, he took them through successive promotions. But if they want to stay up this year, maybe they're writing it off and they're like, okay, we'll go down, we'll rebuild, and we'll try and come back up. Maybe they're keeping faith with Wilder, because who can they really get in anyway that's really going to make a difference?
Yeah,
they can throw money at it in January, but
it's a real lack of a striker there as well, isn't it? Of a proper goal scorer, as you said, that is seasoned in the Premier League. But it's looking so bad for them down at the bottom of the table. It reminds you of Sunderland all those years ago, when they had that worst season ever. And after 10 games, Sheffield United are kind of set up to break a few records.
It could happen. And like I said, before the new year, they have Southampton, United, Brighton and Everton. Now, you might look at Brighton and Everton and think that, okay, maybe they could pick up points there, but you wouldn't back Sheffield United with someone else's money. They're just very poor. Leicester, they're still fourth. Okay, they've been disappointing in the last couple of games. They're without a win in 3. Now, that's in all competitions. The loss against Fulham was a really big knock. Liverpool, the manner of defeat was disappointing, that they didn't challenge, or that they didn't really threaten Liverpool. But you could deal with that, losing against Liverpool. Lots of teams will lose against Liverpool this season. But the problem against Fulham, was that's not acceptable really from Rodgers, and he will kind of have them pushing on, and they have to win this game. Okay. To be honest, so if they don't, it's going to be very poor.
Leicester win on that one, then,
they'll have to bounce back. To be honest, I think.
Super Sunday then, 4:30. Spurs at home to Arsenal. Great derby to have on a Sunday, which is looking like a pretty entertaining Sunday as well with the later game. But Spurs at home to Arsenal. What way do you see this going, Mick?
Yeah, so I mean, it all depends what type of a philosophy Mourinho is going to bring here on Sunday. Is he going to come out and go at Arsenal, or is he going to stick with his how he's been operating recently with the kind of letting the other team come onto him and try and hit him on the break? It's hard to see him changing from that, so this might not be a classic. Now, Arsenal are 2 years without a win against Spurs in the league, actually, so that's a big stat. It's first versus 14th here, and if Spurs can win this game, Arteta will be 11 points behind their direct rivals. So
how safe is Arteta's job? I know it's a building job and they have faith in him and everything, but if Arsenal don't start picking up the results or playing particularly well, even, I know they're getting some results in Europa and that, but how long can you give a manager to rebuild?
Well, I think the appointment of Arteta was, I think he interviewed for the job before and didn't get it, and they seemed to kind of regret that then, and then automatically when it came back up, I think they just kind of pushed it and gave it to him because he did well in an interview. Now, this is a guy who was an assistant manager to Guardiola. Okay, now we've seen assistant managers before kind of try and step into the hot seat. Your Brian Kids, your Craig Shakespeare, when he went in at Leicester. It doesn't always work. An assistant is a completely different role to being a manager. Now, look, I'm sure Guardiola has passed on a lot of brilliant information to him. Arteta is a brilliant student of the game, and he's definitely very capable. But if we're looking at their goals, at what they've done this season, only the bottom three have scored less goals than Arsenal. West Brom with 7, Burnley with 4, and Sheffield United with 4 as well. So I think Arsenal have 10 goals scored this season. So that's very low, especially when you have the likes of Aubameyang, Lacazette, Willian as well. Willian got his first assist, I think, against Wolves. But, we're looking here at a team who haven't really been performing. Partey is out, Martinelli is out, and Kolasinac is out. And Pepe is suspended for basically being an idiot and getting sent off in the last game for that headbutting incident. So if we look at Spurs, last game, 0-0 versus Chelsea, had a disappointing result in the European game where they drew 3-3 with Lask. Now they got through, they qualified for the next round, but by all accounts the performance wasn't excellent. Now he rested his whole back four for that game, and he made 7 changes as well. So we're looking at Aurier, Reguilon coming back in, Dyer as well, we centre half. The question is, and he made a couple of mistakes against Chelsea, was Joe Rodon. He did okay on his debut, but he was protected very well. But Alderweireld is supposedly, not as badly injured as first feared, and he might actually be back for it. But the big news to come out of Spurs this week is that Kane is a slight doubt for the game against Arsenal, and Mourinho wouldn't disclose in a press conference the other day what the nature of the injury was, but he is expected to play. So it could be the same 11 that went out against Chelsea, maybe with Toby Alderweireld being a slight change if they can get him in. A lot of people are kind of saying our Spurs title contenders now. I don't know. I think it's very early for that still. Mourinho is kind of, he's made them hard to beat now. I think after the West Ham game and the 3-goal collapse there, he's kind of pulled back on the attacking football that they had in, like all out attack. So yeah, I think a Spurs win. If we're looking at the form, first versus 14th, and Spurs, yeah, we'll push on to 24 points, I believe.
Yeah, you would see. I see this as a Spurs win as well. Looking at the Arsenal teams and lineups of late and what they're missing for the weekend, this could be a tough day for Arsenal fans to take, actually. I think Spurs could put a few goals past Arsenal in this one.
Yeah, well, they could, but it depends if Mourinho is going to be prepared to do that. It's a North London derby as well. So, as they say, form goes out the window. Well, yeah, it does to a certain extent, but it's all we have to really judge on. And Arsenal haven't been scoring goals. If Arsenal had to lose games 4-3 or were making kind of errors, you'd say, okay, there's big goals in this. Arsenal are dangerous. They're a threat.
Yeah, and they're not a threat. Exactly what you said there. They haven't been threatening to watch. Even some of the results that they did pick up, it wasn't by anything amazing, even against United and stuff.
That was a penalty, yeah. They needed a penalty.
I don't see any threat in Arsenal. I think it's going to be a very bad season for Arsenal. Looking at the squad, looking at the team, I can see an easy Spurs win for this. But as you said, it's a derby. You're the expert, Mick.
Well, yeah, I don't know about that, Dave. I'm putting my neck on the block here, but it is a derby.
Okay.
Spurs have kind of they've dominated Arsenal for the last couple of years, but a North London derby is always very unpredictable.
Okay.
If Aubameyang can maybe get going, if he can hit a bit of form here, it can make a big difference. He is still a top-class striker.
Okay, but you're going for Spurs win on that one.
Yeah, you'd have to go for Spurs win.
And then Sunday, after that game, you're going to have at 7:15, you have Liverpool at home to Wolves.
Yeah, so Liverpool will be happy anyway. It's not a 12:30 on a Saturday. Maybe I'm not sure what's on TV at that time, but maybe Klopp likes he's missing something maybe. But so the big news here, I think, with Liverpool is another injury with Alisson Becker out for 2 weeks. Now, he really has a massive impact on that back four. But in fairness, I watched the Liverpool game the other night, and Caoimhín Kelleher was excellent. Now, he didn't have to do anything amazing, but, he had good feet. He seems to kind of organise his area well. And he showed in that game that he's capable of being a reliable backup. If he had to be a little bit cagey, you would have seen maybe Adrian coming back in. And Adrian hasn't been reliable. He was disastrous against Villa. Kelleher was very good with both feet. You being a goalkeeper yourself, Dave, you'd probably appreciate that. But right and left foot. And it was good to see him get a game because I think he's probably, I'd like to see him get a run for Ireland now as well. Randolph hasn't been.
But that's the thing. Randolph isn't going to last forever, and there's rumours that Randolph is retiring. I don't think it's come through officially, but Randolph has been brilliant for Ireland. But it's great to see younger players coming through that might play in the Premier League.
Yeah, and look, it would be good to maybe see Kelleher go out on loan and get a bit of experience. But regarding this game here, you'd have to think he's probably going to start after midweek. So I don't think he trusts Adrian. Like Adrian was in goal against Villa, and he was very poor with his feet.
You'd imagine that's the end of Adrian's season. Any chance he got, he kind of made mistakes.
Yeah, but he's a good shot stopper, Adrian. But that always kind of annoys me when people say that about goalkeepers because you're meant to be a good shot stopper. It normally means that you're very bad at something else, which is either crosses or your feet or both. Maybe in Adrian's case. If we're looking at the latest update on the Liverpool injury list, is that I think Robertson and Henderson had some knocks against Ajax, but are both expected to play. But I think here, Wolves will threaten Liverpool. Now, whether they can be the team that will break that record-breaking run that Liverpool are on, being undefeated at home, is another thing. Like, obviously, Raul Jiminez is out after the sickening injury he got, against Arsenal. And they have Fabio Silva will probably start. Now, this guy was signed for 35 million. And I was just checking his profile a bit earlier. He's 18, and they signed him from Porto. And when they got him from Porto, he played 12 games and had only scored 1 goal. So this guy is obviously a huge talent that's built up, and we know the Wolves connection with Portugal as well. So there's obviously something there.
Well,
he was useful.
There's a lot of people coming from the Portuguese league and playing very well in the Premier League. Like even Fernandes is the main example, but another couple that Wolves signed and Bernardo Silva, and it seems to be a good feeder league for English clubs at the minute.
Yeah, it does. But the thing about this guy is he's 18. If he was 24, 25 and had a kind of, a few seasons behind him in Portugal where he's scoring 20 goals a season, you'd say, yeah. But, this guy, he has to be a gamble at 35 million for an 18-year-old. Look, maybe he pushes on and becomes excellent and he transfers away for 100 million in 2 years' time. But at the moment, they're pinning on a lot to him. And if Wolves had Raul Jiminez playing, I would be kind of pushing that, this could be an opportunity for Wolves, with the injuries that Liverpool have. But, I expect Wolves will probably target the Neco Williams, the right back for Liverpool, because he hasn't been excellent. I know he had an assist during the week with a cross, but he was taken off at half time against Brighton. And maybe Traore might push over there onto the left, which isn't his normal position, but you would see that would be a physical mismatch. So Wolves will probably target him. But the big question here is, will Wolves be able to beat the Liverpool press? When Liverpool have pushed on with the 4 now up front. Now, whether they go with that at the weekend, because they'll have to maybe jig the formation a little bit because of injuries. But they're pressing with a 4 now, which is even a more aggressive press than what they had with the 3.
Yeah.
So if Wolves can play through that, and in fairness to Wolves, they probably have the players with the ability to do that. You have João Moutinho, you have Ruben Neves. So these guys, they're probably as well equipped as anybody in the league to trouble Liverpool because they have that passing ability, but it's hard to to pick anything against Liverpool, especially at Anfield. So I think Liverpool will do enough because they have been doing enough. Maybe that game against Brighton was a bit of an outlier. And, you know, it was a late goal against them in the end, even if they did have lots of problems caused against them as well, especially with Aaron Connolly. But yeah, I think, look, it's going to be a Liverpool win. I think just be going on their record, and, you know, they are the champions and they have the ability to get it over the line. But Wolves will be a threat here, and I think this will be the game of the weekend.
Okay, and then Monday night at 8 o'clock, Brighton at home to Southampton, and things are starting to turn around a bit for Brighton. We were talking about them playing good football and waiting for it to click in results. It seems to be getting a bit better for them.
Yeah, and they've one defeat in 5. So they have like 3 draws and a win against Villa. They lost 2-1 against Spurs, and we're kind of unlucky on that day as well. Lamptey is expected to return. I think he's back. He only got a 1-game suspension, I believe. The only thing I would say to him, we spoke about this last week about being dependent on Lallana for, you know, a bit of invention. Well, you know, he lasted, I think, 5 minutes after coming on for Connolly in the last game, and he's out. But a bigger loss is probably Neil Maupay up front. So he missed the penalty against Liverpool and went off shortly afterwards with an injury. But he's a threat for them. And again, we're told, like, a very same what we mentioned last week. Again, if you're dependent on Danny Welbeck for goals, given his injury record, you know, you're going to be lacking a little bit. But at the same time, Brighton and Southampton will both play good football. You know, you have Hassan Hüttl, who, you know, organises his team well and kind of gets a lot out of, when you look at the names on that team sheet, you think he's doing really well to actually get those guys to be passing the ball well. And, you know, they were unlucky against United, and whenever you're 2-0
but
up.
I don't think they were very good against United. United kind of controlled that. I know Ward-Prowse was a huge difference, but Southampton, they didn't really string too many passes together against United.
No, and they were probably, it was a little bit maybe, you know, just a little bit naive from them as well, like that United just had that bit of firepower. And most kind of teams, top teams in the Premier League, if they go 2-0 up, they should be able to kind of, you know, keep the opposition at bay. But the 2-0 lead probably did flatter them against United. But you have Ward-Prowse, and I think only David Beckham has scored more direct free kicks than Ward-Prowse in the Premier League. So he is a massive threat. And even probably more impressive than his free kick was his delivery for the first goal.
Corner, yeah.
Brilliant for the corner, like, you know. He is a quality player, and that is a serious, you know, it's a serious piece of, you know, attacking kind of a threat, especially for Southampton against Brighton as well. But I expect Southampton to bounce back, and I think they'll beat Brighton just because, you know, they have been kind of good throughout all the season. Danny Ings is still out, you know, and that's a loss for them. But I think they'll do enough to beat Brighton. But it will be tight again. I think the season has settled down a little bit. We did have lots of kind of goals earlier, and it was like, what, players are we getting fitter now, and we're getting more kind of consistent performances coming through.
Yeah, and there's fans back at a few of those games as well. Is there fans back at the North London Derby as well this weekend?
Yeah, 2,000, yeah.
All right, okay. Well, Spurs usually play their own crowd noise either way when the place is packed, don't they? You know, so either way, it won't make too much. I'm pretty sure they have their speakers on with their fans anyway.
Well, maybe, perhaps, yeah. I'm not sure, but I know they don't have them on in the Emirates anyway. So
definitely not.
Yeah.
Right. Well, that's all for this week anyway, Mick, and I will talk to you next week.
Okay, Dave. Enjoy the football.
Cheers.
And chat next weekend.
Thanks, Mick.